I do have an exhaust manifold loop here. So I'm gonna end up replacing those rusted bolts, and I'm gonna take out the exhaust manifolds and replace the gaskets, because you don't want any exhaust leaks. The first thing to do to get these front pipes off is disconnect the O2 sensors here. And then you can undo the brackets on this side. And then we're gonna work with these bolts up on this end, what's left of them. I'm gonna start with disconnecting these clamps here, since they're so rusty and they're probably gonna break if I just impact them off. I'm gonna heat it up first. That's very hot, so I'm not going to touch that, but I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Now I'm going to see what we can do with this plate as far as taking it off. That's the best looking nut right there. The other ones look pretty bad. Heated it up first, of course. I'm gonna do the same thing for the other three, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, both those bolts broke because there was barely anything left on them, but that's why I'm gonna be taking the exhaust manifold out and replacing those bolts in the gasket too. Alright, I got the bolts undone on each side. They're so rotted, so they all just broke, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. I got both these pipes out. This is what was left of the bolts there. There's still pieces of the bolt in the exhaust manifold, so I'm gonna be removing the exhaust manifold anyway and replacing all the bolts in the gaskets. In order to get these exhaust manifolds out, we're gonna have to get the studs and nuts and bolts out. That heat shield is usually attached on the front and back. As you can see right there, it's not even attached, but that still needs to come off there. So since it's so rusty, I'm gonna heat it up first, and then I'll be taking it apart, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. It wasn't easy, but I was able to get the manifold out on this side. As you can see, there was a broken bolt in the top left there. That's why it's all black. It was leaking when it was cold. So I'm gonna clean those surfaces up and try to get that bolt out after. But I still got the other side to work on. These are definitely not fun to do. Okay, got those nuts welded on. Now I'm gonna see if they'll come off. So unfortunately the nuts broke because it was too hard to get off. So in order to make it easy, I cut a slit right through the bolt, and then I was able to knock the pieces out. I'm just gonna put a nut on the other end of that to allow it to hold a little bit better. But yeah, I cleaned up the surface on this side. I just need to get the bolt out of the head now, and then we can put this back in place. Alright, so as you can see, that bolt is broken. I had it ticking when the engine was cold. Once it warmed up, the ticking went away, but these are known to break the studs. I was able to get the manifold out, none of the other ones broke. You can see the black around that one. That's evidence that it was leaking there also. So I'm gonna get those surfaces cleaned up, and we're gonna try to get what's left of that bolt out of the head. All right, to clean it up, I just got some 320 grit sandpaper, and I'm gonna hit it with a wire brush first, just to get the big loose stuff off. All right, so I cleaned up the ports a bit and cleaned up the outside of the bolt. So I'm just gonna try to weld onto the bolt a little bit, get a little bit of a weld bump, and then I'm gonna set a nut on top of that and see if I can get a nut welded to it and see if we can get it out. Okay, I welded a nut on there. So whenever you're doing something like that, you don't want to take it off right away. You want to let it cool down completely. Then you have a better chance of it coming out and the nut not just breaking off. It might break off anyway, unfortunately, but you hope that you get lucky. So I'm gonna let this cool off for a little bit and then come back and see what happens. I let it cool down for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, I got really lucky because it's coming out. So I'm just gonna finish pulling that the rest of the way out, and then I'm gonna finish cleaning up those ports a little better. These are the old bolts, and this is what's left of the studs that are holding front pipes on. These are the new ones, they're solid. I'm going to now reinstall the exhaust pipe with the new hardware there. And, yeah, once we put the pipe in, then we'll install the sensor there. Okay, so I just gotta tighten those bolts on. And I disconnected the connector to that so I can screw it in there. And yeah, I'm gonna screw that in and then tighten up the exhaust connections. I got a new gasket for it there, and I'm just gonna clean the surface up a little more and then put the gasket in place, and we'll start bolting the manifold in. So I mounted the bolt in the very back, and that one right there, there's slots in the manifold so it can be lifted into place like that. After you get it into place, you want to put all the bolts in by hand, and then you can tighten them all after. Get all the bolts tightened in here. My heat shield was true rotted, so I'm not even going to put the heat shield in, but if your heat shield's still good, I would put the heat shield in now. And make sure you put the dipstick tube back on, because that's bolted on the end bolt there for the manifold. Yeah, now I'm gonna start putting the cat pipe in. So we get the new studs on this side. Remember to plug in all the O2 sensors. And yeah, I'm just gonna slide the pipe in on that end and bolt it up on both ends. The torque spec for the exhaust manifold is 44 foot-pounds. I got the pipe back in place now, and they're tightened on both ends, and you want to make sure that all the oxygen sensors are plugged in. I plugged mine in, of course. Got everything bolted back into place, and I got some exhaust sealant there just to seal up any small leaks that might occur. So now I'm gonna start it up and check for any leaks around the joints. Start it up and see if it works. Alright, so it sounds good right now. I checked for leaks. Doesn't seem to be leaking.